Okay, I'm going to make a recording. I'm going to be doing a presentation tomorrow at the Rehab Center, and because of privacy, I can't video record the presentation. So I'm going to do it right here, right next to my daughter's ashes box. I buy flowers probably once a week and then set them here on the box. Just because it makes me feel better. It's kind of like a grave site, but it's in my own home, which is kind of almost better. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and I have an outline, so I have to refer to the document. But anyway, I'll just start. I'm going to tell you the saddest story in the world, but don't for a moment think that the person I'm going to tell you about, which is my daughter, is better off or possibly deserved what happened to her, because all I can say is just don't. Please don't. If you have been there and done that in any way, shape, or form, you will understand. However, the ending of this story is unimaginable. You have to hear and understand it. So please let it hit home to you and shape your young life. If you're young, let it shape your young life, and if you're not young, just let it shape your life. To not go down the same road that she went, where there is absolutely no return to the earth as we know it. Okay, her date of birth was August 9th, 1977. She was 35 years old when she died on July 6th, 2013. I divorced her dad in 1979 when she was only 18 months old. I know that part of drug treatment therapy is to, recovery and therapy, is to try to get to the real reasons why people use drugs, why they have drug addictions and drug abuse. So therefore I'm going to outline some of her issues that I was aware of at the start of this presentation. She always told me that there were certain things that shaped her into a drug addict that she was, and her related behavior. Number one, she said that it was the fact that she was raised in a single-parent household. Number two, she cited that there were many babysitter phone numbers in the back of our telephone book, and she remembered seeing all those telephone numbers in there and questioned why she saw those phone numbers. I was obviously a single mother, and that was between the ages of 8 and 10, where I was still trying to have some sort of a social life, and I had babysitters' numbers, and that's why the numbers were in the book. But she remembered that. And then there was another time when she was 14, and my mother, her grandmother, was sick at a university hospital, and I made her promise to come home directly after school when she was 14, but she dilly-dallied around, and when she came in the door, I attacked her. You know, she was 14, and I did. I struggled her to the ground, and I spanked her butt with a wooden spoon, and I said, I told you to get back here right away. We had to leave right away to go to the university hospitals. And she disregarded that and dilly-dallied, and maybe it was some sort of physical abuse, I don't know, but she always remembered that. I think another thing that she had said was that she was raised without a father, and that I had several relationships in my life with men, different men coming and going in and out of her life. Some of them were longer periods of time. They were from a year to, 1.5 to 2 years, 3 years, and she got attached to them, and then they were gone. And she also cited that as some of the reasons why. Those are the reasons why she felt that she was addicted to drugs, and that she couldn't break free from that addiction, and that's what controlled her life. But anyway, okay, I'm going to go ahead. She started getting into trouble when she was about 14 to 16 years old. She was pulled over for driving late at night. She had been drinking but didn't get charged. She was skipping school. She did some self-mutilation with heating metal instruments and burning her skin. She had a job, but I found out she had been fired. She was not at home. She was going to another city that was like 40 miles south of here with friends. One night in the middle of the night at like 2 o'clock in the morning, I didn't know where she was, and I got in my vehicle and I drove like 40 miles south of where we lived, and I had the police involved. And she had been at an apartment, and she knew that I was coming, and she jumped out of a second-story window in order to flee and get away from me. And the next day I had to drive back to the same city and then go to the police department and file what they call a pickup order to try to get her found. It was a real nightmare. She'd been working at a zoo, a small, like a petting zoo type thing, but they did have bigger cats. And I found out that the local police department had her under surveillance for dealing drugs, marijuana, and they were trying to get to a larger distributor, and they were watching her, and they were actually watching me too. Anyway, it was not good. That was when she was like, I don't know, 15, 16, something like that. In 1997, she started a relationship with a young man that had a 3-year-old son, and they lived together. And she got her first major drug charge, which was she had 7 marijuana plants growing in a garbage can with a grow light in the lid. So you would take the lid off, and there was a grow light in the lid, and she had pot plants inside the garbage can. She got charged with two charges. They were both felonies. One was manufacturing with intent to deliver, and the second one was failure to possess a drug stamp. Anyway, they were both felonies. And then she just received probation with no time served. She broke up with that guy. He lost custody of his minor child to his mother, the grandma. Then she got a really good job at a machine shop with my help. I knew the owner of the shop, and she got a job. I knew she was smoking pot, but I didn't know she was doing anything other than pot. I decided to move to where I live now in 1999, since all my family members had been, they were now deceased. My job had basically moved this direction, so I decided to move here. I told her she needed to get her own place and get set up. She was 22 by that time. She didn't. And then in the year 2000, she met a person and then began to use, it escalated, her drug use escalated from marijuana to methamphetamine. She was an IV meth user. I didn't have any idea that she was doing that. She actually had to testify in front of a grand jury against some other people that were arrested in the same drug ring, on an Alford, I think it's called an Alford plea. Anyway, so out of that she got treatment in a residential facility in 2000, the year 2000, the same year. And I drove back and forth from where I live to where she was in the residential facility to give her weekends home, because she was a model client, participant in the program. And so I did all I could to support her. While she was there, she met my granddaughter's dad, Dave, and she became pregnant. And she had my granddaughter, Adea. She was born December 28th, 2001. She is now almost going to be 12. She was born with birth defects, but it was not directly attributed to the drug use or anything like that. So between the years of 2001 and 2003, she lived in a rental home and was taking care of her baby and her baby's daddy. and everything seemed to be good. She was a complete family unit. They were both working, maintaining a home, all that kind of stuff. I found out years later that they had been still using drugs at the time, but not to the point of being addicted or letting it control their lives or anything like that. So around 2003 or 2004, I decided that it would probably be better. I mean, I hate to say that I decided, but I discussed it with them that maybe it would be better if they lived where I lived, because I would be more easily able to help them in their, you know, just with different things that they needed, you know, like groceries or babysitting or whatever. So they moved from where they had been living and maintaining a home. They moved to the city where I live. She ended up going back to college. She got an associate's degree, 1 credit short of an associate's degree in CNC machining. Eventually she broke up with Adea's dad. They separated. Then in 2006, she took a better paying job back in another town, a small town from here, like 25 or 30 miles from here. She got, going to a company meeting, she got pulled over by a county patrol, and he asked to search her car, and he looked in the trunk, and he found a Ziploc bag with methamphetamine residue in it. And he wanted to take her promptly to jail, and so he did. And then they wanted her to do a sobriety test, which she refused. So they incarcerated her. And then the next step was, because she had been on probation from the growing pot in the garbage can thing, you know, from a couple, 3 years before that, she was still on probation. They wanted to send her to a drug evaluation. So they did that, and she showed up high on the day that she went to the drug eval. So they said, that's it, we're sending you to prison. So they sent her to the Women's State Prison in Iowa in 2006. Her daughter was approximately 4 years old. And I took her down there. You know, I supported my daughter the whole entire time. She only spent 90 days there. It was kind of like what they call a 90-day shocker. She spent 90 days there. She was incarcerated with murderesses, you know, female murderers, all kinds of things like that. She was totally out of place. She didn't belong there. But anyway, I went down and visited her and took Adea every Sunday for probably six Sundays out of the 90 days that she was there. The 12 weeks that she was there, I think we probably went there at least 6 or 8 Sundays. But anyway, so after she got done with that, she went into a drug court program, which was an 18-month program, which is highly supervised. You're subject to random UAs all the time, that type of thing. She had no sanctions. She got through the program completely perfect. One night she did use an inhalant, a duster inhalant, and came down from my upstairs and missed the last step and fell and hit her head and cut her head open and you know, hurt herself. I tried to tell her that it was probably because of the use of the inhalant, but she said no, that wasn't it, you know, which I'm not really sure. But anyway, that was during the drug court program. After she got done with that program, without any sanctions or problems or anything, she went and lived at a mother and child, I don't want to call it a facility, it was like a home. It was called the House of Hope, and her daughter went and lived there. And they lived there for probably about 6 to 8 months or 9 months or so. But she didn't, she wasn't happy there. She didn't want to live there because there was too many rules and regulations. She just didn't want to stay there. So she got an apartment and left there, moved out, took her daughter, moved out. She met her future husband. And He was 12 years her junior, 12 years younger than her, and they were friends first, and then they became more than friends. But the one thing they had in common was that they liked methamphetamine. So in 2009, on Labor Day weekend, they got arrested, her and him, with a third person who managed to escape and get away. They were basically arrested for a rolling meth lab where they had everything prepared and ready to make methamphetamine. They had the batteries. The guy that was left off in the car was going to the field to get anhydrous ammonia to pour into the mixture to make meth. So both of them were incarcerated. That was on Labor Day 2009. And then in September 2010, they were sentenced. They were released later in 2009, much later, into early 2010. But anyway, they were released on September 2010, and they both got a $10,000 fine and 10-year prison sentence, which were both suspended. So they didn't have to do any time or pay any money, and they lived with me throughout the whole year of 2010. My daughter, her husband, and of course I had Adea, the child, since it happened September 2009. I had her immediately following that. I think my daughter got released in January 2010, and then her husband got released in around May of 2010, and then they continued to live with me until October 2010. Okay, so I set them up with an apartment, paid the first month's rent and the deposit, and everything was good for probably about, I don't know, 6-8 months. You know, they both got fat, they were like fishing, everything was good. You know, they weren't using any kind of drugs, substances, everything was great. You know, it was all great. That was through 2000 and, excuse me, I have to just like take a brief moment. Okay, October 2010, they moved out, and they were good through spring of 2011. And one day I was at work, and I got a phone call from my daughter that said that she was telling me that her husband got invited to use methamphetamine again, and she was really worried about him. So she immediately left her work and came home, and then she called me at work and said, you know, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? If he's going to use, I'm going to use, and I don't want to use, and, you know, what am I going to do, Mom? You know, and she was completely sober and rational and everything like that. But from the spring of 2011, or like early summer, I think everything just started to, you know, go on the downhill skid. Okay, then that went on for a while, and then there came a new designer drug called bath salts, and both of them got involved in that as well. I called her probation officer repeated times through 2012 and 2013, trying to get her probation officer to violate her probation, get her incarcerated, get her picked up, get her put in treatment, get her get her in jail, you know, prison, I don't care, you know, just get her off the streets because it's out of control. And the PO did nothing, just absolutely nothing. So in January 2012, they had a warrant to search their apartment, and they came in, and her husband did not cooperate. He was very upset. She did cooperate, so she became a confidential informant, and they began to use her as a confidential informant, or also known as a narc. Her husband went to jail. So they proceeded to use her throughout 2012 and 2013 as a narc, holding everything above her head and making her do all these things. That went on through 2012, 2013. Brandon, he violated his probation and his other violations. He like re-violated his initial violation in January of 2013. So he got sent to a prison. So he left. And my daughter felt completely deserted and crushed by the fact that her husband left her, even though they were both in the throes of drug addiction. She still felt that he had abandoned her and left her, and she kind of held him responsible, so to speak. So she kind of withdrew from him, and he went into prison, you know, within our state. At the end of March of this year, she got evicted from the apartment, couldn't pay the rent. My granddaughter was already living with me. She had been living with me since the end of January 2013, when she had dropped her off, and you know, she didn't basically look back, you know, because she was having issues. Then on May 21st, 2013, my daughter admitted herself through an emergency room to get help. You know, she was obviously, and everybody told me, you know, let her hit bottom, let her hit bottom. You know, she hasn't bottomed out yet, let her hit bottom. So I didn't help her, I didn't give her any money, I didn't offer her a place to live. She was homeless, she had lost everything. And then she eventually admitted herself through an emergency room into a treatment facility. Then the very next day, on May 22nd, her probation officer from way back when I had called and said, would you please violate my daughter? Would you please get her off the street? Would you please put her in prison because I think she's a danger, all this stuff. So she waits until after she self-admitted herself for help, and then she comes in and says, okay, we're going to violate your probation. Now you're going to like be jerked out of your treatment thing that you've chosen, and we're going to put you back in jail. So they took her out of there and they put her in jail, where she sat for 29 days with no legal representation at all. She got released after just being incarcerated for 29 days in a county jail. She got released, but the condition of her release was that she go back to inpatient treatment, the same treatment facility that she had self-admitted herself to on May 21st. She calls them up and they said, you have to have a new drug evaluation. We can't just like take you back. You know, you need to have a new drug eval. And okay, so that's not scheduled until excuse me. She was released on June 17th. And then her new drug eval was on June 24th. So she had a new drug eval on June 24th, and they said that intensive outpatient would be good enough. You know, that's good enough. Are you kidding me? After all this history, they're saying that intensive outpatient is good enough? I don't think so. But that's what they did. And then so she had this dude that had been hanging around, and he absolutely beat her face on July 1st so badly that she couldn't go to any of her meetings after July 1st. She went from July 24, 25, 26, and 27, and then had the weekend off, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then on July 1st, he beat her up, so she couldn't go to any of her meetings July 1st through. And then on July 6th, she was very depressed. She had been having her period, and she came downstairs and said she was very depressed, and she wanted to have a beer or something, you know. And she got in her car and drove off, and that was the last time I saw her. And so now we have the ashes box here, and that's all that I have left. She went to a river. She sat down on a footbridge. She took off her flip-flops because her feet were dangling over the edge, and she had her flip-flops there, her cigarettes, her lighter, her cell phone, her sunglasses, and she was 70 yards down a footpath in the main channel of the river. She had been sitting over like a little gorge or inlet type thing. So why, you know, why she would walk barefooted and leave all of her belongings and walk all the way down this path and then get in the river and drown is beyond me. But she did have a can of industrial strength duster along with her personal belongings on the bridge. But there was hardly anything gone from the can. It has a very short half-life. I find it very hard to believe that she walked from the footbridge all that way down there, stepped over fallen trees and everything else, and then somehow managed to just fall in and drowned. Now, like, none of it makes any sense, but you can view my other videos on that. The point is, you know, please do not go down this road. I'm just going to list a few of the fabulous attributes that my daughter had when she was alive. She got straight A's in math and accounting. She was in color guard in high school. She played the clarinet. She rode BMX stunt bikes. She was extremely intelligent. She was very articulate and well-spoken. She was charming. At the same time, she could use this to manipulate people. She was funny. She had an infectious laughter. She was followed by others, sought after. She was loyal, strong, protective, loved deeply. She had a dominant personality, said she didn't really need a man in her life. She was good, kind, soft heart for animals and people that were down and out. She had beautiful hair and eyes, nice teeth. She had completed her CNC machining program at the local community college. She could just take a piece of metal and a blueprint and then just totally make the part, you know. I mean, she could run any kind of CNC machine, lathe, drill, finished stainless steel to a food standard. She was fabulous. She could fix anything, electronics, autos, anything mechanical. She was excellent fisher person, no male help needed, picked night crawlers, ice fished back. She fished all kinds of places, kayaker, boating, swimming, camping, tenting out. She loved the Upper Peninsula of Michigan where she was born. You know, I respected all and any of her advice that she gave me about anything. She always knew the right thing to do. She had several tattoos, which are just, they're gone now. I mean, they're just up in smoke, you know, they're gone. She was diagnosed as being bipolar. I also think she was a sociopath. She had wanted to go to a duo diagnosis center for treatment. I feel like that I don't have any closure. I never got to see her body. We had to choose cremation, and it's, you know, it's just a really sad state of affairs. And, you know, please don't judge her for doing these things, because at the end of her life, the choices had no longer become choices. They were just what she had to do to survive. And I don't know. I mean, I could say a lot more, but my granddaughter is taping this and she's kind of telling me to hurry up. So,
my back hurts.
A lot more to say, but anyway, so that's all I guess I'm going to record right now. Thanks for watching. Bye.